Hi, this is your host. When you picture an ancient animal, what comes to mind? Maybe a dinosaur. How about a whale or a seal? How about something that looks like a mix between a crocodile and a whale? No, it's not a mutant sea monster, it's just one of many types of ancient marine reptiles. And these animals were anything but ordinary. They came in all shapes and sizes, from alligator-like monsters to fish with limbs to mammals that returned to the ocean after life on land. So let's take a look at some of the strangest beasts that ever ruled the seas. First up is a group called Ichthyosaurs, which means fish lizard. This name was given to them by the Greeks because they resembled fish, but also had lizard-like features. Ichthyosaurs were a very diverse group of marine reptiles that lived from around 252 million years ago until 90 million years ago. And there were over 200 different species. While many Ichthyosaurs were small, the largest could grow up to 85 feet long, roughly the size of a blue whale. Some Ichthyosaurs looked more like dolphins, while others resembled giant sea snakes. But despite their outward differences, they were all built for life in the water. All Ichthyosaurs had streamlined bodies with powerful tails that they used to propel themselves through the water. Their front limbs were small and turned into flippers, and instead of sharp teeth, they had flat teeth that were good for crushing prey. Most Ichthyosaurs were carnivores and hunted schools of fish. Larger Ichthyosaurs even hunted other marine reptiles. Ichthyosaurs gave birth to live babies, and because they lived so long ago, scientists can learn about them by looking at fossils of their skeletons and comparing them to modern reptiles. The oldest fossils of Ichthyosaurs have been found in Europe, North America, Asia, and Australia. Many of these ancient fossils have also helped researchers piece together the evolutionary history of these amazing creatures. Scientists believe that Ichthyosaurs evolved from lizards that adapted to life in the ocean. And now let's turn our attention to a group of reptiles that evolved from a different branch on the reptile family tree. Mosasaurs were huge marine reptiles that lived during the late Cretaceous period, which lasted from about 145 to 66 million years ago. They were named after the island of Mons Meg in Belgium, where the first fossil was discovered. Mosasaurs were part of a group of reptiles called squamates, which includes lizards, snakes, and turtles. Even though they lived in the ocean, they were more closely related to land-dwelling reptiles than to Ichthyosaurs, which were a type of marine reptile that had evolved from fish. Mosasaurs had long, narrow bodies that were perfectly adapted for life in the water. They had flattened tails that acted like propellers to help them swim, and they used their 4 large paddle-shaped limbs to steer themselves. In addition, they had small hind legs with webbed feet that helped them move around on land. Mosasaurs had sharp teeth that they used to hunt prey. They were apex predators that fed on fish, sharks, birds, and other marine reptiles, including other mosasaurs. Some mosasaurs grew up to 56 feet long. That's longer than a Tyrannosaurus rex and almost as long as a blue whale. But most mosasaurs were smaller, ranging from 6 to 13 feet long. The largest mosasaur species was named Tylosaurus, and it lived in what is now the Gulf of Mexico. One fossil of this huge predator was found in Texas, and it's now on display at the Natural History Museum in London. The mosasaur dominated the oceans during the late Cretaceous period, and its reign ended when an asteroid slammed into Earth. This event caused massive destruction and killed off many species, including the dinosaurs. Today we can learn about mosasaurs by examining the fossils that they left behind. And some of these fossils have been found in places as far away as Mongolia and India. These discoveries tell us that mosasaurs weren't just found in the western interior seaway, which connected the Arctic and Pacific Oceans during the Cretaceous period. Instead, mosasaurs were a worldwide phenomenon. They were masters of the ocean, and they ruled the seas for millions of years. But now let's talk about an animal that may seem out of place on our list, the dugong. You see, dugongs are mammals, not reptiles, and they belong to a group of mammals called sirenians. This group also includes manatees and the now extinct sea cows. Dugongs are sometimes called sea cows too. They have paddle-shaped tails, flippers instead of hands, and webbed feet, and they spend most of their lives in the ocean. But dugongs are mammals, not reptiles. Like other mammals, they breathe air, give birth to live babies, and nurse their young with milk. Until recently, it was thought that dugongs evolved in the Atlantic Ocean and then migrated to the Pacific Ocean. But new genetic studies suggest that dugongs in the Atlantic and Pacific are actually 2 separate species. The new research also suggests that both species evolved separately in the Pacific. While studying dugongs, scientists have learned that they have more flexible spines than any other mammal. This allows them to change the shape of their bodies and helps them move through the water. But dugongs aren't always found in the ocean. When they're not swimming, they can be found in coastal areas such as bays and estuaries. They prefer seagrass meadows, which are full of tasty grasses that dugongs love to eat. Dugongs are herbivores, and they use their large incisors and canine teeth to slice through the grasses. Even though dugongs spend most of their time in the ocean, they still need to come up for air. That's why dugong lungs are much larger than those of other marine mammals, and they have special adaptations that help them hold their breath underwater for long periods of time. Humans aren't the only ones who enjoy seagrass meadows. Dugongs often share these habitats with green sea turtles and some species of sharks. But dugongs are endangered and face threats such as habitat loss, fishing, and ship strikes. To protect these amazing creatures, conservation efforts are underway in several countries. One of the best ways you can help dugongs is by reducing your carbon footprint. Climate change is causing sea levels to rise, which can destroy dugong habitats. If we all work together, we can help ensure that dugongs continue to thrive in the ocean for generations to come. Now let's return to the world of reptiles with a final group of ancient marine reptiles known as the Plesiosaurs. Plesiosaurs were a diverse group of marine reptiles that lived during the Mesozoic era, which lasted from about 252 to 66 million years ago. The name Plesiosaur means near lizard, and these amazing creatures came in all shapes and sizes. Some plesiosaurs were small, like the turtle-like genus Plesiosaurus, which grew to about 3 feet long. Others were gigantic, like the long-necked Plesiosaurus, which could reach lengths of over 82 feet. Plesiosaurs had a variety of body shapes, from the elongated and flexible to the rigid and flattened. Some plesiosaurs had short, broad shells that resembled those of turtles, while others had long, slender necks that were perfect for reaching into crevices and catching prey. Plesiosaurs were apex predators that fed on fish, squid, and other marine creatures, and they ruled the oceans during the Mesozoic era. Some of the most famous plesiosaurs are the long-necked Plesiosaurs. These plesiosaurs had long, slender necks that could reach lengths of over 26 feet. They used their necks to reach into crevices and capture prey, and they had small heads and huge eyes. Plesiosaurs were found in both freshwater and marine environments, and they were particularly abundant during the Jurassic period, which lasted from about 201 to 145 million years ago. Another famous group of plesiosaurs are the pliosaurs. These plesiosaurs were shorter and wider than the Plesiosaurs, and they had short, stubby necks. Plesiosaurs had huge heads and enormous jaws that could reach lengths of over 3 feet. They were apex predators that fed on fish, squid, and other marine creatures, and they were particularly abundant during the Triassic and Jurassic periods. Overall, the plesiosaurs were an incredibly diverse and successful group of marine reptiles. They lived during a time when the oceans were full of giant creatures, and they truly were some of the biggest and most fearsome predators that ever lived. So what's the lesson here? Don't judge an ancient animal by its appearance. It may look like a monster, but it might be more complex than you think. That's 1 minute. See you next time.